8-3 day 1, writing exponential functions. Okay, so this is a 2-day journey on writing exponential functions. We need to be able to write an exponential function if we are given a table or a graph. All right, so step 1, writing an exponential function from a table. We're going to determine whether there is a common ratio, okay? Now, please remember, when we are writing exponential function, we write it in the format of y equals a b x, okay? A is your y when x is 0, so it's the y of the y-intercept. And b, that's the base with the exponent. It's also called the common ratio. Okay, so there's one of two ways to find it. All right, so we can go to our table, and having the x increase by 1 is important. So when you have to make the table on the back for when you have a graph, making sure you write them where they increase by 1 going down is really important, okay, when you're making your own table. And then what we're looking for is we're looking for what we can multiply this top number by to get to the bottom number. And we go down our table. So we can multiply 6 by 2 to get to 12. We can multiply 12 by 2 to get to 24. We multiply 24 by 2 to get to 48. So in this case, our b equals 2. Now, what if it's not obvious? Like, let's say as you go down, you have decimals, or you just have something that you aren't real sure what you're multiplying by all the way down. Well, instead of going from the top down and multiplying, we can go from the bottom up and divide. Because if you go in the opposite direction, we're doing the opposite math, and watch how that works. So, we're going to take our bottom number, 48. And we're going to divide it by the number above it, which is 24. And that equals 2. Then we take 24 and divide it by the number above it, which is 12. And that equals 2. And then we take our 12 and divide it by the number above it, which is 6. And we also get 2. So either way will work. It just depends on what's easiest for you in the moment, and each math problem is going to be different. Okay, so you either multiply, see what you can multiply by going down, or see what you get when you divide going up. Now this also, you also very much have to make sure your x is increasing by increments of 1. So your x is increasing by plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. It's very important to have these in that particular order. So we wouldn't want 0 minus 1 plus 2 here. Okay, you need them in this order, in number line order. Okay, very important. So now we have b. We got b. Woohoo! All right, we have b. We have to find a. Okay? That's next on our list. So step 2, write the function. It says use the common ratio for the value of b in your equation. Okay. Then what are we going to do? We are going to substitute, which means we're going to replace any order pair from the table for the x, y in the equation so we can find our a. All right, I always pick the easiest set, and for this one it happens to be 1, 6. Okay, so I got those numbers from the table, and that is my x, y. And now we're going to solve for a. So we're going to fill in what we have. So we know our b is 2, and we've got our x and our y. So we've got y is 6 equals, we're looking for a, that is times 2, and my x is to the first power. Okay. Anything to the first power is itself. Now right now a and 2 are multiplied because they are next to each other. So to undo the multiplication, we're going to divide both sides by 2. That gives me a equals 3. So we've solved for a, we solved for b. Now we must write our exponential function. Our function in our proper format, okay? So you leave the y equals, our a is 3, okay? We're going to fill in what our b is, and you leave the x. This is your exponential function that you're going to be writing, okay? Now, in your assignment, it is in McGraw-Hill. McGraw-Hill is very picky when it comes to these, okay? So, some things to watch out for, so your correct answer is not marked wrong. The equal sign and the parentheses, when you have it on the screen, there is a box, and above that box are a whole list of functions. You're going to use the functions that are above there. You're going to use the equal sign. You're going to use the parentheses. You are going to use the little box with the exponent, okay? Use them on the screen. Do not, under any circumstances, use them on the keypad. It will mark it wrong every time. You have to use the ones that are provided for you on the screen. Another thing, when you have this exponent, sometimes it will accept it when it's on the outside here. If it doesn't take it on the outside, try putting it on the inside, and it should take it, okay? Double check, make sure that you use the equal sign, you use the parentheses that are provided on the screen, and then it's just either the x is going on the outside or the inside. Now, I took the assignment, I did the assignment online, and I was able to get it to go every single time, just sometimes I had to move my x inside or outside. Okay, another thing I want to bring up, okay, a couple of things I want you to watch out for when you're doing this assignment, okay? So, let's say you get something like this. Y equals 3x. Okay, and that's your answer. Well, I just said this has to be in y equals abx form. Okay. Oh, sorry. The x goes up here, not there. Is the exponent. Sorry. All right. Well, here's the problem. Where's my a? Because b always has the exponent. B is the base. Well, remember that invisible 1, okay? A sometimes equals 1, and when a equals 1, we make it invisible, okay? It just happens to be invisible because it does nothing, because anything times 1 is itself. Now, if you happen to have a negative 1, you would leave it looking like this, okay? Again, you would make the 1 invisible, but you would leave the negative sign here, okay? The negative sign would go outside your parentheses. You would take 2 to the x power and then make it negative, okay? Now, the other thing I want to show you, what if you have a fraction? So negative goes on the outside, because that negative was technically attached to the negative 1. So it is its own separate entity. It goes outside of the parentheses. It was never attached to the b. It was attached to the a. And the only thing that goes inside your parentheses is your b, and sometimes your exponent. Now, when you have a fraction, your exponent goes outside. Okay? So the negative would go outside and the exponent would go outside when you have a fraction, because the exponent has to be distributed to both the top and the bottom. Okay? So those are just things I want you to look out for to make sure you do not get frustrated with McGraw-Hill. And remember, as long as you score an 80%, you get 100 on the assignment, mainly because McGraw-Hill is aggravating sometimes, and plus also, not only can you try the problem 3 times in the assignment, if you're like, ooh, I don't like my grade I got on the assignment, you can completely redo it with another try, and you have 3 attempts on each problem on that try. And then you can do it yet a third time, the entire assignment, and you have 3 attempts on that at the time too. So you have 9 shots technically to get the grade you want. And if you do 3 sets of them and you're like, I'm still not happy, but now I get what I did wrong, let me know and I can give you a whole other attempt on it. You just got to let me know. All right? Let's go on the back. All right. So from a graph. Now, when you are doing this from a graph, a couple things you need to know, because there's a couple things that are in the notes that you will not be given when you do the assignment. First thing, you will not be given the table. You have to create the table. And remember, the table, your x's need to always go up by 1 when you create your table. So if you had negative numbers, it would be -1, -2, -3 up here. Okay, very important to set up your table like that. And then the other thing, the thing that seems to bother students the most, you won't be given the points. You have to pick the points. And when you are picking the points, you are going to avoid the side that is the isotope. So where this would be going and getting closer and closer to x, you're going to avoid that side. What you're looking for is you're looking for the y-intercept. So where does this cross the y-axis? And then you're looking for 1 point on the typically on your assignment, it's going to be on the opposite side from the isotope, but this one has some nice pretty points leading to the isotope. What I mean by a pretty point, it's where your curved line crosses the background graph perfectly. Now I know the very last one on your assignment, the pretty point is halfway in between 2 blocks, okay? So it is perfectly halfway in between 2 blocks. So the perfect point, the y is 3, and well, what's half of 3? 1.5. So it's perfectly at, on this one, it'd be like right here, okay? All the rest of them, you're looking for the y-intercept and a pretty point on the opposite side of the isotope. Okay, so let's see where these are at. We have our x's all set up. Let's see, the y, when x is 0, the y is 8. When x is 1, y is 4. When x is 2, y is 2. And when x is 3, y is 1. Okay, first thing we do, determine your common ratio. We're going to find our b. All right, this one's fairly easy to do the multiplication down. All right, again, you are multiplying. And what would we multiply by? Well, we're multiplying by 1/2, or 0.5, to get from 8 to 4. To get from 4 to 2, multiply by 0.5. 2 to 1, 0.5. Or if you needed to go the other way, 1 divided by 2. Either way works. All right, and either set of numbers should work. I prefer using the decimal just because it's McGraw-Hill and it's not as picky with the decimal, because then the exponent can go inside or outside the parentheses and still be correct. All right, it seems to be a little pickier with the particularly the parentheses, making sure you use the parentheses on the screen for the fraction. Okay, so we found our b. The b is 1/2, or 0.5. Okay, now we're going to find our a. So what point am I going to use? I'm going to use my 0, 8. It's the easiest point for my xy. And I know my b is 0.5, or 1/2. Now my y is 8. I'm looking for a. My b is 0.5, and my x is 0. Okay. Anything to the 0 power is what? Well, it's 1. So what is a? Well, a equals 8. So again, we are going to write our exponential function. And when we do, we keep our y. And we fill in what a equals, which is 8. We fill in what b equals, and we keep our x. This is the answer it's looking for, okay, in that format. All right. So there was, again, no good practice in Alex, so this assignment is also on McGraw-Hill. Okay, make sure you show all your work. And if you have any questions, make sure you ask, okay? Don't just keep plodding through and not understanding what you're doing. Okay, good luck.